Hello, welcome back to Mr. Weeder Maths. So we are carrying on with indices, but this time we are changing powers to have different bases. Now this is a question that it can look like, or it's actually a lot more straightforward than it might first appear. I've got to find out what this power would be. Now some of you would just instantly know what that power has to be. If you're unsure, we're going to write them both as the same base number. So what that means is the 3 to the x stays the same, but I can rewrite 9 as 3 squared. Once you have the same base numbers, well, this is the same as this, so therefore the power has to be the same as the power. So we can say that x has to equal 2. And that makes sense, because 3 squared is 9. Let's have a look at another one. I've got 3 to the power of x equals 1/9. So this question is asking what power of 3 makes 1/9. So again, you might just know this from your knowledge about powers. However, if you're unsure, we're going to go through the process. So we're going to change the things we know. Well, the 3 to the power of x is 3 to the power of x. The 9 becomes 3 squared. And again, it's not quite right because this is on the denominator. So we can't make this power equal this power. It doesn't make sense. We've got to use a reciprocal and our negative power knowledge from a previous video. So we got 3 to the x equals 3 to the power of -2. Once we have the same base number on the same level, we can say the power equals the power. And look at that, x would be -2. That makes sense, okay, because we would have the reciprocal. All right, on to another question. So this time we are going to do 8x equals 2. So this time we have to change this 8. So how do I go about doing that? I'm going to change this 8 into 2 to the power of 3 because 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. Now, as I've only changed the 8, there would still be an x acting on all of this. That's why I've used the brackets, because the x power is acting on all of the 8, which is 2 to the power of 3. Over on the other side, it's just a 2. Now we use the bracket rule that we've seen previously, and we times those powers together. So I get 2 to the power of 3x equals 2. Once you get here, you've done all the hard work. We've got our base number, and now this invisible power here is 1, and these have to be equal. So I have 3x equals 1, and then I would divide by 3 to get x equals 1/3. And that makes sense, because 1/3 as a power means cube root. Cube root of 8 is 2. Lovely. Right, now there is another way they can ask these kinds of questions, and they could do it in words. So we're going to do a couple of examples of these. So they might say, write 25 to the power of x as a power of 5, for example. Now, it's not quite the same as the questions we've just done. It's very, very similar, but it's just slightly different. What you do, you take this, and we've got to express it as 5 to the power of something. That's what this last sentence means. So we take this and we're going to alter it until it becomes 5 to the power of something, okay? So I'm going to take the 25 and I'm going to change that. So that is going to become 5 squared, because 5 squared is 25. That's the thing I want. I want a power of 5, but I can't forget that all of it is to the power of x. So now we use the bracket rule that we've seen, and we times those powers together. So we get 5 to the power of 2x. Okay, that's it. I have 5 to the power of something, and that's what this means. On to another little worded one. So this time, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change this, and keep the words the same. So I've got, on the one I've written down, 4 to the power of 5 as a power of 2. So I've got to write this thing here, 4 to the power of 5, as a power of 2. So I write 4 to the power of 5, and then underneath it, well, let's change 4 to be 2 to the power of 2. I put my bracket in because the power of 5 is acting on this. and put my power back in. And then we do the multiplication rule with brackets, so I get 2 to the power of 10. And that's how we can write this one as a power of 2. Lovely stuff. Last one we're going to do together is, again, rub this all out. I've got 27 to the power of 3x plus 1, and I want to express that as a power of 3. Okay, so we do the same thing we've done on the previous two. I've got 27 to the power of 3x plus 1. I'm going to change the bit I know. I'm going to rewrite 27 as 3 to the power of, well, 3 squared is 9, so that's going to be 3 to the power of 3. I've got my bracket, and this time, instead of a singular x, we've got 3x plus 1 acting on the other side, okay, or on the outside of the bracket. So now we multiply both of these things by the 3. So we've got 3 to the power of 9x plus 3, and we're done. Okay, hope you enjoyed. Have a go now. Find a square number or a cube number and try to write it as a power of something else. Give it a practice. Bye.